My name is Alexandra, and I'm a bibliophile. Welcome back to a lovely jaunt where we discuss literature. In today's episode, I am bringing it back to wives and daughters. So if you saw my fourth episode, you would have seen that I wrapped it all up. I said that I had finished talking about everything that I had wanted to, and no, not so. I'm back. I thought about the novel some more, and I am back with some more content for you guys. I'm really excited about it. I think these are cool ideas, but of course I'm always excited about this sort of thing. Alright, so for this episode, episode 5 of Wives and Daughters, we are going to be talking about Darwinism and Romanticism. So, let us begin by taking a closer look at the Squire Hamley, and his land, the relationship between those two. So it's been popularly explored through a lot of different stories dealing with this era or similar times. For example, Downton Abbey, we explore the idea of the way the lord of the manor feels this father-like responsibility not only for his own literal family, but also for the servants that run his household, tenanted farmers who farm his land and pay him rent and live there and help his land be prosperous. His economic success and his wisdom are theirs. Yeah, and it's an old carryover from the feudal system, right? So this idea that you have this liege lord, and if he is prosperous, then you're prosperous. You get your, spoils from his success. As the novel progresses, as Wives and Daughters progresses, we learn that Squire Hamley has taken out a loan to drain some fields on his property, and this would make them usable for farming. This would make them arable. But the project has been abandoned before it was complete. Meanwhile, Osborne's lack of success at the university and combined with him, spending all of his allowance. As readers, we know he's spending it on his wife and child, but from Squire Hamley's perspective, his son is just being profligate and not really paying attention to what his property really needs and stepping into that responsibility of the firstborn son. So all of this puts further financial strain on the home, on the household, and also obviously strain on their relationship. The land languishing in an unproductive state is a metaphor for the behavior of Squire Hamley, particularly right after his wife dies. We see him become languid and lazy. He doesn't write out as much. He doesn't connect with the people that he leads as much. And it also represents attitude and behavior of the inheriting son, who is also unproductive. Osborne's biggest effort to provide for himself and his family is to kind of dally around with the idea of publishing some romantic poems. Poems which the text shows to be out of date, unpopular. The time has already passed for the romantic poets, and he's kind of behind the times. Again, these problems are solved by the industrious, modern, and scientific Roger. The book ends with the property heading into financial stability under his guidance, and he becomes the metaphor for the new modern era of Darwinism and progress and modernity, technology, scientific progress, all of those things. He kind of sweeps in, while Osborne represents the old guard of the Romanticism, poetry, beauty, the aesthetic, the aesthete. And in this process, Gaskell is borrowing from a long tradition of connecting the health of the land with the health of its lord. This motif appears as early as Arthurian legend. When King Arthur is fully in power before his kingdom is destabilized, the literal countryside of England is shown to flourish, and after the death/sleep of King Arthur, who may be returning the once and always king, is also shown to remain in stasis until he returns. Likewise, even the fairy tale of Rapunzel, is that what of Sleeping Beauty, it represents this as well. When she goes to sleep, the whole kingdom falls asleep. The kingdom is connected to this royal heiress. And then again, in Shakespeare, we see this motif picked up. In A Midsummer Night's Dream, we have a debate between King Oberon and Queen Titania of the Fairylands, and it's over the changeling child, and Queen Titania makes it very clear that the land is in disarray, and the reason of this is the dispute and the debate between them as leaders. So they're being disconnected, them being adversaries at this moment, means that the land is also in chaos. And I'm going to read this speech to you because I love Shakespeare and you're welcome. So enjoy the view of the top of my head as I look down my massive Shakespeare anthology and read you some Shakespeare, some Midsummer Night's Dream. Actually, the Norton Shakespeare anthology is fantastic, and if you are at all interested in scholarship and an excellent copy of all of his plays and sonnets, it's in 2 volumes. It's up above my head, second volume. Yeah, I definitely recommend it. I wish I'd gotten the hard copy. Would definitely recommend that. Paperback is not sufficient for this number of pages and the solidity of this book. Anyway, I'm way off topic. Let's read some Shakespeare. Alright, so this is from Act 2, Scene 1 of A Midsummer Night's Dream. Here's a speech from Titania. I'm only going to read part of it because it's kind of long. These are the forgeries of jealousy, and never since the middle summer spring met we on hill and dale, forest or mead, by paved fountain or by rushy brook, or in the beechen margin of the sea, to dance our ringlets to the whistling wind. But with thy brawls thou hast disturbed our sport. Therefore the winds piping to us in vain, as in revenge, have sucked up from the sea contagious fogs, which falling on the land, hath every pelting river made so proud that they have overborne their continents. Alright, so here we see the accusation that Titania is laying out. She's saying, you're jealous of the fact that I have the changeling child, and because of that jealousy, anytime me and my ladies go out to do our fairy dances, which are necessary for the renewal of spring, you have interrupted us with your brawls. And as a result of that, the winds have sucked up the water from the sea, have pelted down on the rivers, and the rivers are now overflowing. After this, she goes into a long discussion about how the overflowing banks are ruining the crops. They're rotting because they have been flooded, that the cows and flocks of sheep can't go out into their fields, and they're covered with diseases again because of this flooding in the fields. The humans can't harvest their crops, they've been destroyed, and all of the seasons are out of whack, and they're not, following their regular apportioned time. And so this is yet another example, again, of that theme, of the way that land is tied to the health of the leaders, and in this case, the health of the relationship with the king and queen. And so this is the tradition that Gaskell is standing in. It's very, very long-standing for English literature, and it's super cool. Alright, so now that we've kind of dissected this old literary tradition, let's take a look again at Darwinism and Romanticism. So, in the process of favoring scientific progress and intellectualism, our characters also see the novel seeding the death of the previous movement, Romanticism. So, Romanticism is fully exemplified by Osborne, as I kind of talked about earlier. A poet, elegant, almost feminine, weak of health. He dies literally by inactivity, like his mother, and he's unable to provide for his family or protect his wife and son or future. Other characters aligned with Romanticism through the books they read or quote, Lady Hamley and Mrs. Gibson consistently. Both Molly and Cynthia read romantic poems and novels, but eventually they're moved to more scientific texts, ultimately through the guidance of Roger yet again. So Molly by Roger and Cynthia by Molly, who derivatively reads the book Molly has from Roger, right? And so we see them sort of being led into the future, being led into modernity. The novel shows by natural selection which is stronger and the more vigorous perspective. It moves into the future optimistically by means of science and modern commerce. Roger is able to solve his father's problems with money and with his debts through his own success and careful money plans. The breach between the Cumnors and the Hamleys is healed by this common goal of scientific pursuit by the younger generation. And it's clear that the old ideas of the languishing pale poet will go by the wayside as England moves into a more modern and robust future. Alright, so that is all I wanted to say about Darwinism and Romanticism, the way that they're identified by the various characters in the book. We see the romantic characters constantly falling by the wayside and the Darwinistic characters kind of coming to the fore and proving their strength and mettle. So, as always, I would love to hear what you have to say about this book or about any of the ideas that I've talked about today. If you have any other ideas that I haven't covered yet in my series, leave them in comments down below. I'd love to discuss them with you. And until next time, I'm still a bibliophile.